All right then, are you ready to go, Dr. Hale?
You bet. Yep, I'm excited. We're going to have a wonderful training thanks to you and the others that are part of this. Of course, just keep in mind that our goal in these Tech Tuesdays is to present information that we believe will make you successful in your jobs. So here's a tool that we do have in place already, and Lindsay is like a pioneer in this. So I really appreciate her sharing with us, and there are others on here as well that will share. And I do hope that you saw the trainings on teams that were presented by the IT group last month in June. And that was presented. Those links were sent out in an email to you. But this really is more extension. So this is how we use Teams in extension. And Lindsay has been doing that for quite some time. So has been really kind of one of the main coordinators, along with Philip and some others on this call. I'll let them introduce themselves. But Lindsay, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Dr. Hale. Thank you so much for that introduction. And that really is the point of this is Teams is becoming a really, really pinnacle tool for us to use here in Extension. And it's really going to be a huge wave of the future coming out of COVID-19 and how we went from all in-person programming to all virtual. And now that just has opened us up to a great tool to use for now blended learning to expand our reach and continue our goal as extension. So if everybody can see my PowerPoint slides, correct?
Yes,
Yes, we can see them.
Awesome, awesome. Thank y'all so much. So I forgot to, again, introduce myself. My name is Lindsay Munyon. I am one of the administrative associates over at the District 9 office. And I have the privilege of helping out with Dr. Philip Shackelford and anything he needs. So I'm just glad that I'm able to be here and also help with all of you today to do trainings on Teams. A couple things we want to keep in mind when we go through this presentation. The goal of Teams is really truly about collaboration. It really is about being a team. It's a tool that's going to help you expedite communication and make it easier to collaborate on projects. So instead of having to send back and forth like 20 emails with 3 different, versions of a document y'all are trying to edit, Teams allows you to have one place organized. Y'all can collab on documentations. Y'all can send quick messages to each other and just be able to communicate in a much more organized and succinct way. So that way you can get what you need done faster and in a more organized fashion. Another thing to keep in mind as we go through these trainings, and I really recommend you keep this in mind for any future trainings that you do on Microsoft Teams. Teams is always updating and changing. They work really hard, and by they I mean Microsoft Teams and AgriLife IT. They work really hard to figure out what we as the users need for our programming, what things are missing, what things are just, it'd be really awesome if we could do XYZ. So if you ever come across that feeling of, man, it'd be really cool if we had this feature, let your IT know. Let somebody in the AgriLife IT department know that that is a wish that y'all are wanting. And most of the time, if it's, yeah, that would be really cool. Let's see if we can make that happen. There's lots of things that I've been like, man, it'd be really cool if we had breakout rooms. We got breakout rooms. We got lots of different things that are constantly being added to Teams. So keep that in mind. And anytime you think of that, I wish, ask, because it could happen. So today's outline is really going to focus on more of the document collaboration, creating of teams, setting up your team, how you communicate in teams, and really focusing in on that aspect of it. So we're going to go through different users, how you set up your team, how OneDrive connects with Microsoft Teams, and how you can collaborate on documents. I will admit this is going to be a 1-hour training. We got a lot to cover, so I might be going slightly fast, but that is only because I want y'all to be able to get through all the info. The PowerPoint that I am presenting today will be shared with y'all. I love creating step-by-step how-tos, and that's what my goal was for this PowerPoint presentation. So if you need to do something, you can pull up this PowerPoint, go step by step on how you need to do it, and it'll make it super easy for you. IT has also demoed how to do these things. They're really good at that too. If you're more of a demo person, then by all means, definitely go check out their videos. They are very useful, and I've learned a lot from sitting in on their trainings. So we're going to start with differentiating between internal users and external users. And this is important in a lot of aspects of your team. So an internal user, in respect to AgriLife Extension, is any user with AgriLife credentials, i.e. anybody that has an ag.tamu.edu email address. So these are people who are automatically in the system. You can search their name inside of Teams, and you'll be able to pull them up very quickly. You'll see them, no issues. They are hoping for future updates, and with further integration into our group, that all AgriLife employees will be a part of the agency. So they again are continuing to update that info for us and continuing to add people into the Teams network. An external user is basically everybody else. Anybody who doesn't have AgriLife credentials. These could be your participants in programming. These may be some of your committee members. These may be just anybody else. Currently, this might include some of those specialists that you have on y'all's team and you have communications with. Anytime you include anybody who's outside of our agency into Microsoft Teams, they will be labeled as a guest. This will appear usually when you're creating your team. So the things I can recommend for people who are external users, and things that I recommend that you let your external users know, is that Microsoft Teams can be used by them. It's used most effectively either through the Microsoft Teams app, which you can download on any device, Android or iPhone, or by using Google Chrome browser. It really prefers Google Chrome browser more than Safari, Firefox, you name it. Just Google Chrome browser. But majority of the time, if they're going to operate via a smart device, we really do just recommend they go ahead and download the Teams app. So now we're going to quickly skim through how you go about setting up a team. Used to, you had to go through a couple of other different ways of getting approval for a team. IT had to do it for you. Now, through your creation of the team and your supervisor's role in accepting that offer, you can set up your own team. So quickly, I'm going to go through just step by step. Again, this is how the layout goes. Most of us are familiar with AgriLife People. Everybody has an account on AgriLife People. So you're going to go there to start the process of creating a team. You're going to log in using your AgriLife credentials. Should be the same as logging into your email. Once you get to here, this page is actually, and I've blocked out a lot of it because I just honestly don't know what I was allowed or not allowed to show. But this will list everything that you've got access to. It'll show what teams you already have access to and an ownership of, emails and other different services. Okay. You're going to click Manage Your IT Services, and that will be under your ALP tab. Or it's also the giant green button that's right above that red arrow. Once you go through there, you're going to scroll all the way down to Creation Requests and select Microsoft Team, because that's what we're creating. And then you're going to make sure the date and time of the changes is fine. If you want the team to be open as soon as it gets approved, just leave the date as is. As soon as it's approved, you can do that. You can set it up, though, to where the team won't be created for up to 6 months. But again, this is also contingent on your supervisor's authorization. So if that time comes up and your supervisor still hasn't approved of it, then it will bypass that time until your supervisor approves of it. So just keep that in mind and make sure when you do put in these requests, you're letting your supervisor know that, hey, I put in a request for a team. Would you check up on it, make sure it's good? Can I get approval for it? This is where we fill out the form. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of jargon, but it's really pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to quickly run through it. Team name is basically what you want the team to be called. It could be 4-H, District 9, Ag and Natural Resources, whatever. It always has to have the team dash in front of it, though. Description, again, self-explanatory. Describe what your team is doing, who's in your team, and what your goal is. Always select standard. Nobody's really going to be using the professional learning opportunity or community or class. Those are different ones, so we're just going to select standard. If you need anybody else to own a team, maybe that supervisor would like to own the team as well, you can search by their name and add them as a team member or as a team owner. If you need non-member access, again, these are for people like committee members, specialists, people who are really going to have a hand in doing what you need to do for the team. You can say yes, and then just remember that these personnel will be listed as guests. They won't be listed as a member, they will be listed as a guest. Justify team creation. Now in this paragraph, you're going to need to describe why this team is needed and how it fails to meet the needs that another team can, or why another team fails the needs. And this is where you should really also, and really before you start to create this team, you also need to ask yourself, can this team be a channel instead? And what I mean by that is that teams can have breakdowns into channels. Think of them as like chapters to a book. Or if you talk about 4-H, we talk about the big 5 that are underneath the 4-H umbrella. Same thing. You can create channels inside of teams to specify different project groups. So now if everybody who's in your team is already on another team that falls under the same category, it would probably make more sense then to just create a new channel. Add those people to the channel, and then you've already got it set up. You don't even need to go through the approval process. It's all ready. I'll show you how to set up those channels here in a second, but again, that's just something to keep in mind when you're asking for a team. This is just that way you don't have like 50 different teams when you could probably crunch it down. At the very end of this form, it requires you to acknowledge training and responsibilities. You have to say you understand all of these checkboxes, that you've gone through training, you know that data is shared, that you need to be sure it's not being shared with inappropriate people, and you will be reminded to reaffirm these responsibilities quarterly. You'll get an email, you'll say, hey, it'll be like, because you're an owner of this team, we need you to reaffirm these responsibilities. You'll click yes, I approve, I understand these responsibilities, and you're good to go. And then once you're done filling out this form, you'll hit continue. You'll make sure that all of your info is correct, and then you will submit your request. Again, once it's submitted, it will be routed to your supervisor. So just keep them in the loop, let them know it's there so it's not sitting in their inbox. We do recommend, or at least I say I would at least recommend that you set aside 1 business day, at least, for the team to be created. You will receive a notification via email once the team is created. All right, so you've created the team, your supervisor approved it, and cool, it's showing up in your team. Now we got to set it up. So now, operating inside of Teams, you're going to click on Teams. That's on, I said the right side of the bar. It's actually the left side of the bar. So forgive me, that's an error. So it's on the left where you go to Teams. For our examples and the future examples, I'm going to be using our Southeast Region 4-H Initiative team, because it's pretty broken down, and I think it's something that most of us as program people can relate to. Your team icon will be the initials of the team by default. It'll usually be the first 2 initials. So since this is the Southeast region, 4-H initiative teams, it's going to be T for team and S for Southeast. Now that could work, but notice I have multiple teams with the same first initial, so that might get confusing. So you can edit the actual icon of it to help you identify your team easier. You're going to click on the 3 buttons inside of the square of your team, click Edit Team, and then from here, you can actually change the icon. Teams offers a bunch of pretty cute icons, but if you want to change it to something, maybe your group has a logo, maybe you've got some branding, maybe you just want to change it to a picture of a cow for Ag and Natural Resources, you can upload a photo. Teams will automatically crop the photo and shrink it down to size, so you can't really adjust what it centers in on. So just keep in mind that the icon should be small and it's pretty clear what you want the photo to be, because you can't really do a lot of editing once you upload a photo. Once you've picked your photo, select Update, and your icon will update. So now we're going to click on our team to open it up. I didn't change the icon on my team because I'm not really in that many teams, but it'll appear once you edit it. So we're going to go into the team, and now we need to add members to the team, because right now the only members are whoever owns the team. So we're going to click on the 3 buttons, and then we're going to click Add Member. A window will pop up, and you'll need to add all the names of the members that you want to be in there. You can add multiple at the same time. It's the same as how you're putting multiple names in an email. Operates the same way. So you'll start typing out names. People who are, again, internal users, their names will pop up and you'll click them. If there are external users you want to add, put in their entire email address, and then it'll say Add as Guest. So again, those external users being guests. We'll click Add, and everybody will be a member. Now here's where we talk again about channels and how these are important. These are useful when you need to divide your team up by certain subjects, projects, specialties. Maybe your whole group has certain people who are only in charge of finance. For me, I'm using the example of the Big 5 because our initiative teams are divided up by the Big 5. Ag and Livestock, Citizen Leadership, Family Community Health, Natural Resources, and STEM. So now the people who are in the Ag and Livestock Committee, we'll need to add them to that channel to better help organize them. So we're going to go Add Channel, because we need to add the channel. Also note, didn't want to forget this, whenever you create a team, there will always begin a first channel as general. This is just an overall encompassing channel for your team. So we're just adding different customized subcategories. So we're going to click on those 3 dots again, and we're going to click Add Channel. Again, we're going to list out the channel name, the description, and then we've got kind of a pinnacle option, which is the privacy option. So there are 2 options for this. There's either standard, which is accessible to everyone on the team. Anybody who's in the team can see anything that gets posted, any files that are posted in that channel. The private setting makes it to where it's accessible only to specified people within your team. So let's say you're an administrator and you need a place to collaborate with other administrators on documents, but you don't necessarily need everybody looking at those documents or making edits. You can create this private setting for a channel and then make it to where only the administrative people can have access to it and see it. It's kind of just a way to do it. You can use it however you want to. It's also a really great way to keep people organized, so that way they're like, I don't know where I need to go, or they don't accidentally drop a file in the wrong location. So if you choose the private option, you will need to specify which individuals you would like to have access to that channel. And note that those individuals must be added to the team first. So they need to be added to the team before they can be added to the channel, if that makes sense. It's like having a whole group of people and then putting them into their specific baskets. They got to be in that first basket first. All right, Private channels will have a lock symbol. That's how you'll know they're private. Public channels won't. As you can see next to the general, there's no lock. That's because everybody has access to it. All the other channels have locks on them, which means they're private only and only accessible to the people who we have specified. Alrighty. Now we're all set. We've got everything set up. So what I'm going to do now is give you just like a little quick tour of what you would normally see in a team. Each channel automatically comes with a Post tab, a Files tab, and then a Plus tab, which allows you to add other tabs to it. And again, all of these options, if you ever need to manage your team, you need to add people, you need to remove people, those can always be done through that 3-dot button next to the team name. All right, now this is where we get into stuff that I just learned like 2 days ago. So I actually am really excited about this because I had no clue you could do like half this stuff, which is awesome. Posts. Posts are places where you can make announcements, ask members questions, and have discussions. I like to think of it as like, sort of kind of like the live feed on your Facebook, where like everybody's putting their statuses. That's kind of like that, just like shrinked into the people on your team. If you ever want to start a new conversation, you can click that new conversation button and then click the format button. This will help you to open up a lot more options on how you can format your discussion. You can have like a title of the subject and then the discussion underneath. You can format it, bold it, make it a paragraph, add a link, do lots of stuff with it, add a table. It's pretty much everything you can do in Word or in your typical email. Now there's 2 types of posts you can do now. This is where I get excited because I didn't know this. There's new conversation and there's announcements. So a new conversation is a way that you can start a topic of discussion for people. I view this as like posting a Facebook status. So you type in something, you're like, hey, I need y'all's feedback on this program coming up. And then people can click on that discussion and reply to it. This is like replying to your status on Facebook. So they can say, I think about this for this program. And it's all in context to that, kept really succinct, so we all know what we're talking about. The other thing you can do in this post section is announcements. This is like, well, it's kind of just what it is, an announcement. This is a message or statement, but you don't really need a reply to it. You're just stating a fact. By the way, I'm going to be gone. By the way, this is a national holiday. By the way, this got canceled. You don't really need feedback, you're just stating something. You can create a headline and then type your announcement below, send it off, and then everybody in that team can see it, and they don't have to reply to it. There's not going to be an option for it. Both options can be posted to multiple channels. So if you're in charge of a channel, or if you're in charge of a team, and you need to post the same announcement to multiple channels, hey, by the way, I'm going to be gone XYZ days. You can select that channel thing and select channels, and it operates just the same. Find your channels you need, add them in like an email, send it off. It adds it to all the channels. Tags. So most people, again, I use the term Facebook, but I think it's something that most of us are familiar with. Forgive me if it's something you're not terribly comfortable with. It's just something I kind of help replicate. But tags are a way of just notifying people. It sends a notification to that person, gets their kind of, yoo-hoo, hey, can you look at this? Just a way to kind of grab their attention. So you can always, not only in posts, but any type of chat within Teams, you can put the @ symbol and type that person's name. In this example, I'm using Dr. Shackelford. So you can type an @ and what this does is it highlights their name. Once their name is highlighted and I type, hey, Dr. Shackelford, can you look at this document for me and let me know it's right? It sends him a notification to let him know, hey, you got tagged in something. And he says, oh, I got tagged in something. He goes and looks at it and says, okay, I'll look at that document. It really helps to ping people into a direct projects, questions needed. It just really pinpoints them to that if you need it. So I really do recommend you do this, especially if you're in a team with a lot of people. It'll be really hard to get somebody to notice what document you need them to look at if they're also in other teams. So tagging people is really, really great. The Files tab, kind of self-explanatory. I think a lot of people have used this. It's probably, if you're going to use it, it's probably one of the more used things in Teams. But basically, this tab just is, again, a file system. Operates the same ways as your documents on your own desktop. So you can create files, you can create documents, all of the Microsoft applications, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. You can create new ones in this setting. You can copy the links, you can download the files, you can create folders and categorize things. So you can do all of this within your channel and in your team. The Plus tab, like I said, is a way for you to add a new tab to your team. You can add things like a website. Maybe I'll have a county website that you're constantly needing to look at. Instead of having to open up an internet browser, it's on your team. You just go and it operates. It works. It works through your internet. It's the exact same thing. Maybe there's a document that you frequently use. You can have a tab for that document. Maybe there's a long-term project that y'all are working on through a giant Excel spreadsheet, but you don't want to have to always open up the spreadsheet every single time and find the folder it's in. You can create a tab for that specific Excel sheet. There's also lots of other types of apps and things you can use. It's really, really cool. Try search if you can't find something you need, or you're like, man, I really would love to have a list. You can add a list. You can find all sorts of different applications inside of Teams. You just got to look for it. This might have been the #1 question I got asked when we were doing besides programming, when we were doing y'all's registration, we were talking about what do people need? And people are like, I want a shared calendar. I want each team to have a calendar. And I am happy to say we could do that. Now, unfortunately, because of the time constraint of our presentation, because I want y'all to be able to ask questions, I can't go into super deep detail about how to do the calendar thing right now. But the short and sweet version of it is you can go to your More apps. You can find this app. It's called Channel Calendar. And you basically rename it, and boom, it's a Teams calendar. You can specify events for just that channel. It'll pop up on your main Teams calendar, which will also pop up on your Outlook calendar. So it all syncs up really well. If you want a YouTube video, I'm going to go ahead and link it in the chat right now. But you can go watch this YouTube video. It is really quick, but it does a video, and it does a really good job of explaining how to do that. If y'all would like a demo of this, I should be able to fit it into next Tech Tuesday's presentation. So if you really want to watch a demo of it and watch me walk you through how to do it, you'll have to come to next Tech Tuesday, which I think y'all are going to want to anyways because it's programming, but in case you needed a little motivation. So anyways.
Lindsay, we do have a question from Laura, and Laura has said, can you add the YouTube link to the chat?
Yes, I went ahead and added that into the chat so you can have access to that.
Oh, way ahead of me, and now I see it. Wait, so slow.
No, you're hey, it's called buffer. You know, the internet's got to catch up, so you're totally good.
I was actually thinking channel, and could you add the YouTube video into the channel? But
Of
course you could, yeah.
Yes, you could. As long as it's a web link, you can add it to the channel as well. That's also a very great way of doing that. Maybe y'all have got a playlist of y'all's programs that you want to be checking up on and looking at. That's another great use for that tab, to be able to add that website link. Great idea. Alrighty. As long as there's no other questions, we'll keep going. Again, I know I'm probably moving really quick, but I just want to make sure y'all have chances for questions at the end as well. And it is a lot of content. So now we're going to talk about OneDrive. and now hit how it connects with Teams. I didn't know this, but you can access OneDrive in your Teams, which means wherever you've got Teams, you've got OneDrive. And whatever you have in OneDrive, you basically have access anywhere you have with an internet connection. So you can go to your Teams, go under Files, and under Cloud Storage is OneDrive. And there it is. That's your OneDrive. That's everything that's in your OneDrive. Side note, this is a rare anytime you make a recording, and I will reiterate this in a future program, but anytime you record a program, this is where you're going to find the recordings now. Used to be they took you to a separate application. In the past, it's also just been posted in the chat box of that presentation. Now they have it to where your recordings go automatically into a folder in your OneDrive, which I think is so nice and makes things very organized, especially for somebody who's constantly doing programs and recording them. So anything that's in your OneDrive on your device, aka on your PC, if you add it into that OneDrive, it's accessible via Teams. But it is always safe and better to sync your files periodically. I would probably say every couple of weeks. This just makes sure that everything that is on your PC is on Teams. Sometimes Teams gets behind, things aren't syncing up, the internet's not talking with each other. So have it sync up. It'll basically just make sure everything that is on your PC is on Teams as well, and you have full access to it. Now, people are saying, why should we really worry about OneDrive right now? Because those of us who use Simplicity, our contract ends December 1st, which means Simplicity is going away. And I know that bums some people out, but really everything you can do with Simplicity, you can do in OneDrive. You can still share files, have collaboration. Teams allows for that collaboration now. And with OneDrive, it'll all really be in one place. So I will link this link also in the chat. But this is a step-by-step that IT has done for how you can copy everything from your Simplicity over to your OneDrive, set it up to where it shares with the same people you had it before, and then delete the files off of your Simplicity. So when it goes away, you're not losing any of your data. I will note that it ends December 1st. I would not wait to do this until Thanksgiving. As much as you can, I really do recommend you sit down and you just do it now. Lots of experience with waiting to do something at the last minute, and then your technology decides to fail on you. You just don't want to put yourself in that situation, especially at the last minute. So really, really would just recommend when you've got that little bit of time, you've got a little bit of lag, or let's say you're about to start a new folder in Simplicity, just go ahead and start doing it in OneDrive. Get yourself in that habit of working in OneDrive. I promise it operates the same. It's going to be good. And you also have it on Teams. So sharing and having that data wherever you need it will be useful as well. Now we're going to talk about collaborations on documents. There's two types of collaboration we're going to talk about. And again, I didn't know you could do this, one of these types of collaborating. I didn't know you could do this until I saw the Tech Tuesdays that our AgriLife IT was putting on. So again, if you want demos and you really want to start getting deep into Teams, I also recommend you go watch their tutorials and their presentations. They were very informative. So we've got two types of collaboration. We've got simultaneous collaboration, and then we've got the check-in, check-out method. So simultaneous collaboration is probably what you're doing already. And most people are familiar with this if you worked in Google Docs. This is when you've got multiple users on a document working at the same time. Y'all are making edits, you've got your little icon next to the cursor, and y'all are making edits at the same time. This is still this is available in Teams. And not only that, but you can also see all the live changes, but also have a chat within the document to show, a chat. It's just a chat box, so you can discuss things that are happening. Why did you make that change? hey, I think we should add this. Maybe we can make it a bigger font, stuff like that. The check-in, check-out method is very much similar to how you would check in and check out a book at a library. You can take a document and check it out and make edits to it without any other users being able to edit it. Then once you're done, you can check that document back in, and then it'll update it and the document will be made available to your other team members. So this is really cool if you really don't need that many people working on it at the same time. In fact, it would be even more confusing if too many people were working on it. So you check it out, you make your edits, you add your data, then you put it back in, and nobody messes with it. For that simultaneous collaboration, this is how you would view a document within Teams. So the different things you can do within the document is you can have comments. You can leave a comment on a particular document asking for changes and questions. This is also something that's available in your regular Word too, where you can put your cursor down somewhere and have like a little yellow post-it note and say, hey, right here, you need to add a comma or whatever. Catch up. This is how Teams syncs up all of the changes. So let's say you've got 2, 3, 4 people working on a document and you need it to catch up. So you're like, okay, what do we have so far? You click catch up and it helps to catch up all the people to it. When I say user, Cheryl, I just noticed your question, and that's very good for clarification. When you say user, do you mean anyone on the team, including guests? Yes. Guests also have accessibility to these documents as well. So whenever I say a user, I also include those guests. Conversation, this is that chat box feature that I was talking about, where you'll have a chat on the side, just like you've got a chat box on the side of this presentation. And it is limited to just that document. So when you see that chat box appear, you know it's just referring to the document you're working on. So you can ask for changes, ask for clarification. You can tag people again. So if maybe you're working on this document, but you need somebody else to check on this document, you can tag them and say, @Philip, hey, can you check this documentation and make sure I've got the wording correct? You can do that as well. Very, very useful. To check in and check out items in your team, you will go to the document you want. You will go down to More, and you will click Check Out. A confirmation will appear in the top right corner of your Teams letting you know that, hey, you have checked out this file. When a document is checked out, there will be this little arrow icon that you can see here. It's this red downward arrow. That just means an item is checked out. So, and this will appear to all other users as well. So if you've checked out an item, and let's say I checked out an item and Philip wanted to work on it, if he tried to click on it, he would get an error saying this document is checked out and unavailable for editing. Once you are done editing the document, then you are going to click the 3 dots again, go back to More, and click Check In. This puts the document back up and available in the Teams and syncs it back up to where all your changes are saved. With that being said, if you don't click Check In and you instead click Discard Checkout, this will not save the document. Basically, it will revert it back to before you checked it out. So if you made a bunch of changes to it and then did Discard Checkout, you would lose all the changes you made. So just make sure you check it back in. Wow, and that is actually, okay, cool. So I'm a little bit ahead of schedule, but we are on to questions. And while we're doing questions, I'm also more than happy to demonstrate anything live within Teams. So we're open for questions. Alrighty. Don't hear any questions or see any questions. Here we go, we've got one. The calendar feature, do I have time to demonstrate it? I can absolutely demonstrate it. If we've got time, absolutely, I can demonstrate that for you. So let me turn off this PowerPoint, or at least minimize it. How about we just exit? There we go. So I will go ahead and pull up my Teams. Y'all should be able to see my desktop right now. I'm going to pull over Teams. There we go. Alrighty, so let's go in to that same group. As you can see, I was working in this. So let's go to Ag and Livestock. I don't need to make that post anymore. So now, if I wanted to add a channel calendar to this, I would click on the plus sign. And now I would go to more apps, because if you try to search for channel, if I could spell, it's not going to pop up here. So you have to click on more apps. And see right here at the very top is where it is. Channel calendar. We're going to click add to team. We're going to confirm that we've got the correct team selected, which this is the team I wanted on. Oh, wait. That's not the team I wanted on. I don't want it on general. I want it on this one. Let me try again. Add to team. Hold on, these are what I want. Strange. Okay, so it looks like right now you're only able to add it to the general tab, so I might have to make some edits for next week. So let's go to a new channel then. Let's go to our A&R initiative team. And let's try it this way. More apps. Again, we're clicking channel. Add to team. Yep. So it looks like you can add it to the team, but you cannot differentiate it for channels. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll set up a new tab. You can name the calendar anything. You can name it programming calendar. You can name it whatever you want. We're just going to call it the channel calendar for now. And boom. So now it's all set up, and it's set up again under that general tab. If you create a meeting in here, you will notice that right here is where it has the team on it. So this helps specify on your calendar who these teams are going for. Oops, we got somebody. Hold on.
Wonderful, son.
There we go. Those are always the best. All right, so we do have the team highlighted here. So this just shows you which team it's in. And you'll schedule this as always, as you do any other team meeting. So a good representation of that, actually, if we go to my calendar and we go to this meeting, you'll see here that I made a test meeting. This is the link to join it, and this is the team it's for. And if I took y'all to my Outlook calendar, it would show the exact same thing. So it all syncs up very, very well.
So Lindsay, I have a question about that. Is it going to send a notification to everyone that's in that team, or do you have to go back and add that?
You would have to add the participants as usual. What that does is it just makes it show up on that calendar.
Okay.
No, it'll send them a notice. I know, because that's
the
way I did it.
Oh, well,
so if they're in the team, that's one of my problems with this calendar. You could only put like meetings. You can't just put an event on there.
Right, and I did ask our IT about that, and they're still getting back with me on that one. So, but this is at least an option. The only other way I can think of right now that you would get around this is just making a calendar meeting, even for an event that may not necessarily be in Teams. But that is an option to use. Or you might just have a bunch of, you might have a team where it really isn't really anything outside of Teams, and that's where this calendar would be useful. Alrighty, double checking on any other questions.
There was another question. Cheryl Williams, I believe.
The team app doesn't work very well on Apple OS. Any tricks to get around that? Most of my volunteers use iPads. So really, I would just recommend you download the application the app should work just fine. Another way you could go around that is if you have Google Chrome downloaded onto their iPads, if that's what they're mainly using, Teams is just going to operate best on either one of those.
And that's something that I know, if you don't mind, Lindsay, I'm going to make
Go
a
ahead.
mention. When you're scheduling a meeting and you've got outside guests, make sure that you may want to mention to them if on any of your devices, make sure you have a Teams app or that you're using Google Chrome, because a lot of the Apple products, their default is Safari. But you have the option to make Chrome your default. A lot of people just don't know that. So, for
Right.
example, if Lindsay just scheduled a meeting and I was not with AgriLife and I clicked the link off my cell phone and I didn't have Teams, nor was I using Chrome, it would tell me that I can't access that meeting and that link doesn't work. So, if you're trying to promote Teams, make sure you say use Google Chrome or you download the Teams app on your device. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, that's a very valid point. Do we have anything else?
Cheryl had another question above that about having to create a Microsoft account. I haven't had that problem yet, but I want to know the answer.
We shouldn't have to add, you shouldn't have to create a Microsoft account, I
So-
don't believe, or Rebecca?
It really depends. Have you been migrated and do you have ag credentials? If you have ag.tamu.edu, you have a Microsoft account. You could go to Microsoft 365 and log in with your ag credentials and your email. But we have a lot of individuals that are in departments who are in the process of working with AgriLife IT and they're migrating, meaning they're getting Office 365, they're getting the Teams software on their computer, or they're getting, and they're getting ag credentials. So it depends, Cheryl, if you don't have ag credentials, then you don't have a Microsoft account. And that's where we have a lot of problems right now trying to get specialists into our teams and they not be guests. I hope that makes sense. But once everyone's migrated, I really think that AgriLife Extension is going to really enjoy the Teams software. So does that answer your question?
No, she said it's mostly external people, volunteers.
The issue is with my Master Gardener volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
are going to have ag credentials, TAMU credentials. And so we tried to migrate our Master Gardeners into Teams, and it's just not worked at all. So we went back to Zoom.
Well, one of the things I think that you're going to have to look at if you want to do Teams is they're going to have to make sure that on whatever devices they're using that they have Office 365, which has Teams. And I don't know how to explain that, but on your desktop, for example, if I have my desktop at home, I need to make sure that I have the Teams component there. And I'm going to do a little research, Cheryl, just to see. Lindsay, you and I can talk about this and we can look and then bring it back to the next meeting. I bet that you can get a Microsoft account, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to speak to that yet. But that's the way to go. That's really one of the ways to go. If you want them to, they've got to have the software on whatever device they're on. That's the number one thing. They could still be a guest, but they got to have that software. Does that make sense? Not really. It does and it doesn't.
Hopefully that does. I'm looking at Stacy's question. Is it possible for a county to create our own team? There should be no reason for you not to be able to create your own team for your county. Again, it's just following along the same lines. The people with the ag credentials will be listed as members. Anybody who does not have those credentials, again, you just encourage them to operate on their computer off of the Teams application or via Google Chrome. But you absolutely should be able to create a team for your county. So that way y'all can have that collaboration with your staff members. Alrighty, any other questions?
I have a question, Lindsay, but I do have a comment. I would like to thank you very much for providing training today. This is, in case you guys didn't know, this is Lindsay's very first statewide training that she's ever conducted. So, and I think she did a fantastic job of providing this information. Very practical, very useful. And I know that you guys can go back and you can watch this video and you can see all the steps that she went through. So thank you, Lindsay, for putting this together.
Absolutely.
Great
I'm
job.
glad. Again, thank you. I'm so glad I was able to help. So with all of that, I will go ahead and just promote our next session, which I think a lot, when I looked again also at those questions, when y'all registered, y'all answered questions about what y'all wanted to know versus what y'all were struggling with. And I noticed a lot of things attached to programming. How do you do online programming? How do you do blended programming? How do we do the recordings and the YouTube and all of that? So if you had questions on that, I really, 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 really recommend you and anybody you feel like is struggling in that field come to our next Tech Tuesday training. That'll be on the 27th. We're going to skip a week, but it'll be on July 27th, same time, 1:30. We're really going to delve into that. Basically going through how do you've got your program, how do you set up the meeting, how do you advertise it, how do you gather your attendance, how do you send out surveys. I'm going to try to go through all of that. So look out for those reminder emails from Rebecca. Remember that we are going to be resending a link if you've registered, so that way you have access to it. And other than that, we look forward to the next session. If you've got questions on any of this, again, my name is Lindsay Munyon. Well, actually, my real name is Lindsay Shepard now. I'm going through the process of changing my name on literally everything because I just recently got married. So if you've got any questions on anything we've discussed today or over the next Tech Tuesday, anything regarding Teams, please feel free to contact me or message me on Teams or call me, whichever one. I'm more than happy to help y'all. And on that note, I think we're done. Thank y'all so much for attending the session. We hope we see you in the next session, and y'all have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you.